Colorado, there are approximately 4,500 homeless people. There were 47 people last year. 47 homeless people who died of exposure or related incidents. Murder by exposure is the number one form of murder in this country. Number one. Selena Not Afraid was murdered by exposure. How many hundreds of women and men in Arizona, Native American, white, black, are killed in exactly the same way? Selena Not Afraid. January 1st of 2020, she froze to death. She froze to death. She was with 6 other people in a vehicle. And somehow, she wandered away from the group far enough to freeze to death. Who would do that? In Arizona, it's a little bit different. In Arizona, instead of dropping you off in the middle of nowhere in a blizzard, they drop you off in the desert with no water. It don't make any difference. You know why? Because the people that you kill the most doing this are the homeless. So the homeless in Boulder County have a 1 in 96 chance of being murdered by exposure this year. Through intentional neglect, misappropriation of funds, $100,000 apiece for each of 7 board members to preside over the resources for the homeless in Boulder County. All those resources go completely to waste because every step of headway that those resources might provide for you, you're cut off with 3 to 5 times the expenses by police who are just trying to run you out of town because people in Boulder, Colorado don't want to see poverty. They want to see rich, liberal scum. They want to see snow bunnies and summer bunnies. They want to see some skin. But they want it to be high-dollar Louis Vuitton skin. When people go to Boulder, Boulder doesn't want the image of poverty. So all these resources that you're paying your tax dollars into, deny the homeless. They deny the most at-risk people out there. There are many times when people were out there complaining that they couldn't get any help, that they'd been out there, and every time they try to get somebody to help them, because that person has the same problem, hey, why don't we go in together? And they won't do it. They say, oh, it won't work, it won't work, it won't work. The same issue I got, bunch of negative nillies. I'm telling you the legal route to go, and you're telling me that's not the legal route. I produce for you the actual laws, and you look the other way. I produce for you the mandated reporter training, and you look the other way. I provide for you the evidence that the mandated reporters did not do their jobs. They did not follow the training that they're supposed to have. And I've proven time and again that them playing stupid like that is their training. You cannot become a doctor without that training. You can't even become a nurse without that training. You cannot become a pastor or a priest without that training. If you are the bookkeeper at a church, you are a mandated reporter and are supposed to, by law, have that training, which means that every single one of these people who broke the law, did not do their jobs, and then played ignorant or stupid, did so knowingly, willingly, and intentionally. How much money has been reappropriated in the last 40 years, specifically to make sure that there is a way that when mandated reporters do not do their mandatory job as mandated reporters, that there are consequences for them. All of this money that we keep apportioning to that training in specific for law enforcement. And what do they do with that information? They use it to pull apart the people who are easiest to victimize from that information. They tell us it's not their fault. They have an overwhelming caseload. So you didn't do your job because you had an overwhelming caseload. But you didn't speak up to the courts about this. You did not come forward with the victim and explain that, well, you can't defend your client because you have an overwhelming caseload. That your client is being physically, psychologically, and sexually tortured because he tried to turn in a cop and now he's incarcerated. My predators said I was crazy and nobody had to do their job after that. These people who claim they did things, well, you know what? Those things that you claim that you did show directly that the police, law enforcement, the Bollinger family, and Kara Johnson Miles did, in fact, knowingly, willingly, and intentionally mislead multiple situations and intended to and attempted to create a situation whereby I could not go to 2 separate court dates in 2 separate places at the same time. By playing victim, by pretending that I threatened to kill them and pretending that I threatened to kill who? Alicia Bollinger. Did I ever? No. Matter of fact, the only person in the Bollinger family whose life I actually threatened was after multiple threats by him and his family. That was Ted Bollinger, and I admitted to it. Like I said, before Natalie was killed, I told all of my worst sins on Facebook. All of them. And I have not stopped since. What Ted Bollinger and Alicia Bollinger did at my grandmother's funeral is, well, for certainly not forgivable. Can I forgive them? I'm capable. But they got to show me some remorse. These are people who claim to be Christians. Repent. Profess by mouth. Confess your sins. You want to play the Christian game, then be a Christian. Don't bullshit me. I've read the book, motherfuckers. When you want to say, what would Jesus do? Well, he certainly wouldn't have looked the other goddamn way. And there's a good chance that with what these people were doing to me, he might have picked up a fucking whip and chased them. That'd go well this day and age, wouldn't it? Especially if it actually turned out to be a white Jesus. A white man running down the street with a whip is probably not going to go well, even if his name is Jesus. What would happen if Jesus were alive today? He'd get thrown in the clink for not having ID. They'd lock him up in a state hospital for claiming he's Jesus. No, Jesus would not get along well today. If the second coming of Jesus Christ came along today, he would have to perform a lot of miracles, or he'd be stuck. Stuck in a mental hospital. And y'all know that's true. See, here's what I've been noticing about these people who are claiming to be Christian. All of them are manipulating each other. It's a whole game of manipulation. That's all religion is, regardless of what religion you are. When I told you that there are 3 ways to fight a war, the first one is by killing people. That's the most popular. But the other 2 are absolutely necessary. The first way is not. It is not necessary to kill people in order to fight a war. We've seen many times where protests have been good enough. You just have to have the numbers. If you don't have the numbers to protest like that, keep in mind you need at least that many numbers, if not more, in order to stage an effective military coup, which does require killing. Historically, between 1% and 3% of a population is enough to stage an effective overthrow. The reason for that is because, well, simply put, most people are cowards. Regardless of gender, regardless of race, regardless of skin color, regardless of national origin, most people, most human beings are cowards. That's not racist. That's stating a fact about our genus and species. Most people just simply don't have what it takes to stand up to another human being. What they have the ability to do is mimic what they see on TV. And most people try to project that as reality. Oh, well, I saw this thing on Law and Order. Fuck. Son, you're watching a TV show, dumbass. It's a fucking TV show. Or they try to paint all of these fucking cops as goddamn Boy Scout golden angels. Fuck no. They're human, same as you and me. Oh yeah, and then you guys make excuses for alcoholism among their ranks. Oh, they should be allowed. They should be allowed. Are you sure? Because that's certainly not how you treat the alcoholic on the street who is raped. Nobody would listen because he's a he. And because he's gone through a lot of trauma. Been pushed to the point that he's attempted suicide. He's called mentally ill, and nobody will ever hear him ever again. No one will hear him. When he screams for help, he's going to get arrested for disturbing the peace. When you beat the shit out of him because you had a bad day, or because the girl that you thought that owed you sex wouldn't put out, and you go down and you find a homeless alcoholic, you're not going to find an alcoholic with a badge on, are you? No, you're not. He'll fucking shoot you, and you know it. What are the chances of that homeless person having a gun? Not very good. And he's drunk, you know it's an easy win. And you know if the cops show up, it's a fucking homeless person. Just say, hey, the drunk attacked me, and he goes to jail. You don't get in trouble. That's what you're thinking at that point, college boy. We're not fucking retarded. Every homeless person in Boulder, Colorado has seen you motherfuckers doing that shit. Many of us have been at the brunt end of your fucking cruelty. Christopher Weaver had 6 college students try to bash his brains in with a rock. The police wouldn't investigate. Why? For the same reason that they wouldn't investigate the rape of Teresa Massilia. It was college students that did it. The cops didn't go after Zaid Atkinson or Samuel Leon Lawrence IV because they were black. It's because they assumed that those 2 men were homeless, and this is standard procedure against the homeless. You want to pretend that homeless people don't have IDs? We certainly do. Many of us do. It's essential for a lot of things. One of the biggest gripes is that Boulder police will steal our ID, saying they're just going to run a routine check and they never bring it back. If you try to say something, then they'll bully you and they'll fucking assault you and they'll haul you off to jail, and they're obviously going to have to charge you with something. So they charge you with disturbing the peace and assaulting an officer. Nobody cares if you assaulted anybody or not. It's a fucking cop's word versus yours. They're not even going to look at the fucking body camera. And of course, as Marcia Estrada and also many of these other professionals have stated very clearly, yeah, there should be body cameras, but we can't make them produce it. That's why you have to record it. And you have to have a friend or family member present. And they have to be not too cowardly to speak up. A lot of the friends I had to go to, they're drug addicts. They've had trauma of their own that they can't cope with. When they tried to get help, they had the same issue that I had with them. The people, their trusted adult that they went to for help when they were abused, didn't do shit. Many of them, when they promised to help me and then didn't follow through and wanted to fucking throw a tantrum at me. Like James. What tantrum did James throw at me? That when he was being abused, nobody helped him. There we go. And how many people have told that to me? How many people have said that? And how many of them was I there for when they went through hell? How many of them even informed me or made any attempt to inform me? Now, there's a couple of them that are no-brainers. I know that, well, with Rick Marvin, a.k.a. Creeper, I know that he's not a rapist because I was there for the situation. So I was able to speak up. I just didn't find out until years later. And by then, the damage had already been done. But yes, I absolutely still spoke up. Laura Nelson, somebody in a lot of my stories, she knows Rick Marvin. And then there's Christopher Weaver, the man who had his brains bashed in by college kids with a rock. He survived that. Went on to become a father. His crazy ex tried to accuse him of rape. I was there for that situation too. She wasn't supposed to be anywhere near Ogre. That's what he went by. Christopher Weaver. She wasn't supposed to be anywhere near her daughter because she had repeatedly put her daughter in danger. And how inappropriate it was for Ryan James to be in a hotel room with a 2-year-old watching porn. Yes, Christopher Weaver still fumes about that. And also the fact that he could have lost his daughter because, well, his ex, who is nuttier than squirrel turds, abducted their daughter and went and passed out in a different town while her daughter ran around on the busiest street in town. Could have gotten killed. Imagine being the person who's on the busiest street in town. You're trying to stick along with traffic, and you hit that bump. And you got to live with that for the rest of your life because somebody was a stupid parent. Yeah, when she tried to accuse Christopher Weaver of raping her, I fucking knew better. I was there. Yes, there were multiple sexual assaults that happened, and all of them were committed by her, as well as damage against my property. That's not okay. There's also the situation with John Fox. What happened with John Fox? He was in jail. While he was in jail, his girlfriend was beaten up and she fucking died. And when he got out, Mobley, aka Stephen McMillian, was going to take him up the mountain and kill him. Because he heard a rumor that John Fox had killed her. What kept Mobley from taking John Fox up the mountain and killing him? The fact that I spoke up. What prevented Christopher Weaver from being abused by the homeless people of Boulder, Colorado for crimes that he didn't commit? The fact that I spoke up. I spoke up when and where it mattered. I spoke up immediately, and it is hailing, and I am not driving in this. I can give it a minute. The hail only usually lasts maybe 5 minutes at most. And it's the tiny stuff. Anyway, I don't remember what I started making this video about, but that's alright. I had a lot I needed to get out. Fuck it. You know how we end these videos. Good to be rid of you. Thanks for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper, and no victim left behind. I also want to say that even though I am greatly disturbed by the monsters that we have taught women to be in this country, just because there are so many female predators doesn't mean that we should ignore female victims. Now, in the next few days, I'm probably going to say that we should, and there's a reason for that. Because that's how we, men, are treated. Look at how many of my predators, when I tried to tell on them, went out of their way to slander my name, tell everybody I was crazy, and ask them not to look or listen to me. Well, that's still coming back to bite them in the ass, isn't it? They were unsuccessful in nearly 24 attempts between Nebraska, Colorado, and Wyoming. Repeated unsuccessful attempts to shut me up. Repeated unsuccessful attempts to get illegal charges to stick, and they just couldn't do it. They just couldn't do it. So why are these assholes allowed to obviously, repeatedly, knowingly, willingly, and intentionally press illegal and false charges against me? How many times constitutes harassment? How many times constitutes police misconduct? 11 times in Dual County alone. Just in Dual County. Not to mention the multiple occasions in which they utilized other counties, like Garden County and Scottsbluff County, to try to shut me up, to try to take me out of jurisdiction where I was told that I couldn't turn it in because I was in the wrong jurisdiction. Why was I in the wrong jurisdiction? The treatment that I have endured is beyond inhumane. But I'm a badass. My name is Sean. You don't like that ego, do you? You're insulted by it. I got no self-esteem. That was raped and beaten out of me long ago. But that ego, I gotta tell you, it's fucking mighty. Look at the ego on Ted Bollinger. Thinking it's okay to rape and molest his own daughters and to sell their bodies for cash. Pay off debts. Rose M. Kelly should have been helping put Ted Bollinger away, not playing victim with me. Danica Garner should have been helping put Ted Bollinger away, not fucking with me. Denise Kelly, that's Natalie's grandmother, should have been busy trying to put Ted Bollinger away, not fucking with me. Danica Garner and Rochelle Shelley Campbell, same thing. Same thing with Tim Beeson if he was any kind of a man. Same thing with Bobby Forrest if he was any kind of a man. Did these people help to put Ted Bollinger away? Or did they help Ted Bollinger to get away? Yes, these women are victims, absolutely, of Ted Bollinger's. But I am their victim. And Ted Bollinger's victim as well. The police knew who and what Ted Bollinger was. What possible reason would the police have for repeatedly helping and assisting child molesters, rapists, and some of the worst parents on the planet? Child abusers. What would possibly possess police officers to do such a thing? Well, it all comes down to the fact that them neglecting their duties as officers did, in fact, result in multiple deaths, including Natalie Marie Bollinger. Their failure to follow procedure in the situation between Natalie Bollinger and myself, and their willingness to break the law repeatedly since then to try to hide it. And you guys want to pretend that because I scream at the top of my lungs and curse about how wrong this is, that I am evil and must deserve it. God bless America, right? Isn't that what you want to tell me? Give it to God? God's got a PhD in neurophysics, doesn't he? And neurosciences as well. God went to Harvard Law, didn't he? Oh yeah, I could totally subpoena Jesus to court, couldn't I? Do you fucking hear yourselves? Just because these women were victimized by Ted Bollinger doesn't make it okay to victimize me. Just because they did horrible and atrocious things to Natalie Bollinger that made her want to fucking die. Every day of her fucking life over what they did to her and how they helped Ted get away. If these people want my forgiveness, they want me to shut up about what they did, they need to speak up and put him away.